Good morning. What a great pleasure it is to be here with you today. But first, a confession. I've given lots of talks in my life. For whatever reason, this has been one of the most difficult to put together. I really probably spent months trying to conjure this talk up. I guess you could say I'm out of practice. Mavericks, icons, and geniuses. A challenging topic for sure. I'm happy to report I did come up with some remarks I hope make some sense today, but I started over on Tuesday. And I will say beyond any shadow of a doubt that ChatGPT did not write this talk. I thought about it. So here goes. Let's talk about Mavericks. Who comes to mind? For me, it's people like Elon Musk, Steve Jobs. They're what I call the headliners, people who get a lot of media coverage and who operate on what you could say is a grand scale. There are others for sure. Recall Eric Liddell, the man portrayed in Chariots of Fire, who refused to run on a Sunday in the 1924 Paris Olympics due to his Christian beliefs. St. Mother Teresa, who gave up what could have been a life of comfort to help the poorest of the poor in India. These are people who didn't follow the crowd, who resisted the pressure to be like everyone else or to do what most other people would do. And I think we all know that pressure is for real. There's still another angle. Let me tell you a funny story. Years ago, while working at Lilly, I oversaw a group of scientists. My administrative assistant at the time, who by the way is now retired and living here in Nashville, was new to the research and development organization, having spent her entire previous part of her career with Lilly working in the finance department. So after a few months, I asked her, well, how do you like working here in the research labs? She said that she was enjoying it and learning a lot. But there's just one thing, she added. You ask these scientists to do something, and they don't do it, and you don't seem to care. Never forgotten that. Well, look, I think we all know scientists are sometimes notorious for their disdain for authority and their tendency to do things their own way. And is this such a bad thing after all? Think of how many discoveries and advances have taken place in history when certain people, call them mavericks, have looked at the same thing as others, but have seen something and surmised something entirely different. So what about the maverick in you? Do you have the courage to choose your own path, to not always accept the status quo, to think and act independently when the pressure is on, to conform to what everybody else is saying and doing? Being a maverick can come down to this: having an idea or a vision of what can be and being determined, staying with it, being bold enough and courageous enough to stand firm and persevere in the face of challenges and criticism and adversity. That's the maverick in you. Don't shy away from being one when that moment comes. Next, icons. What exactly is an icon? Well, for me, they're people we look up to, role models, individuals we place on a pedestal. Who are my icons? Well, for starters, they're not star athletes, nor politicians, not the rich and the famous. Mainly, as I thought about it, they're mostly the women in my life who have made a real difference for me and whom I would want to emulate. starting with my mother, Jean Byerly Lechleiter, who gave of herself in countless ways over 92 years to raise 9 children, starting with me, to be responsible adults, decent people, and good citizens. Sister Claire McGowan, a Dominican nun who was my 7th grade teacher. She taught me everything I needed to know for high school and beyond. I later learned that cloaked by that habit that she wore was a 22-year-old woman from Massachusetts who had not yet finished college. Another sister, Sister Jean Hagelskamp, who spoke at this gathering 1 year ago. Nearly 20 years ago, she founded Providence Cristo Rey High School in Indianapolis, a school that has helped hundreds of disadvantaged kids prepare for college while gaining valuable work experience. Last but not least, my wife Sarah, my high school sweetheart, whose love, counsel, and devotion for well over 50 years have meant everything to me, and who has shown me what true love is all about. So who are your icons? And more importantly, for whom could you be an icon? And what goes into that? For me, the common theme is caring about others and making a real difference in people's lives. Selflessness, kindness, individuals whose character shines through and whose qualities you seek to emulate. Ask yourself, in whose life have I made a difference? More importantly, in whose life must you make a difference at this moment? Who will one day see you and call you out as their icon? Finally, geniuses. Now, at first glance, this is a tough one. Is it the person with the high IQ? Is it the girl that scored a 100 on the algebra test? That person you met once upon a time who blew you away with his smarts? I'm going to take a different tack. First, an analogy from history. Think of our country's Constitution and the group of individuals known as our founding fathers who, in 4 sweltering months in Philadelphia in the summer of 1787, created a document, the Constitution of the United States of America, that has not only stood the test of time, but which stands today as one of the great treatises of all time. Think about this. After the Bill of Rights, which was adopted 4 years later in 1791, there have been only 17 amendments to our Constitution in nearly 240 years. And 2 of those were the establishment and the subsequent repeal of prohibition. Were our founding fathers all geniuses? Certainly not by what you might consider a conventional definition. Yet what they produced was and is genius. As Thomas Edison once stated, genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. And I believe our founding fathers perspired greatly in that hot summer. So how do you apply your God-given gifts and talents and combine them with others to produce works of genius, whatever that might be? For me, the opportunity to lead Eli Lilly and Company enabled me to contribute, along with thousands of my colleagues, to the company's progress, furthering its mission of discovering and developing life-saving medicines for the benefit of millions of people around the world. Am I a genius? Certainly not. But I did what I could to the very best of my ability. Finding your own genius comes down to recognizing your uniqueness, your special talent, your special role, and living it out each day. Ask yourself, what do I do well? Where do I excel? What unique skills do I possess, and how am I applying them? Just where does my genius lie, and how am I honing it to make a difference? Focus on what you're good at and do it well, whatever it is. As Coach John Wooden, himself a Hoosier, once said, "Do not let what you cannot do interfere with what you can do." Leave a legacy behind and envision, starting today, what that might be. With your own genius, leave the world a better place than you found it. Mavericks, icons, and geniuses, they're all sitting in this room. How to identify them? I suggest when you go home this afternoon, you start by looking in the mirror. Thank you very much.